Hello everyone, this is a continuation of the video lesson for the outbreak of World War I. This is segment number 2. In the first segment we ended with this map which shows us Europe in 1914 and the different alliances that were formed before the outbreak of World War I. So again, this pink-red color is the Triple Alliance, the blue is the Triple Entente. We are going to go to another map, and this one is showing us Southeast Europe. So if the map were to continue, you would see the rest of Europe kind of up and over here. The big countries are the Austro-Hungarian Empire and the Russian Empire. And if you remember from the first segment of this video lesson, these two countries are competing for power in Southeast Europe. So these are the countries that make up Southeast Europe. These are the big dogs that want to control this area of Europe. All right, so we are going to head to the Balkans, and I'm going to actually back up just a moment. This area of Southeast Europe is considered the Balkans. So where you see it says Montenegro, Bosnia, Croatia, Montenegro, this is the Balkans, excuse me. This is the area considered the Balkans. Okay, so what is happening in the Balkans is a crisis. You might consider this area to be a powder keg. It is just waiting to explode. And one of the reasons is due to nationalism. Now, you might want to write a note off to the side and tell yourself that nationalism is one of the causes of World War I. Excuse me, I got a tongue twister there. So nationalism in the Balkans is the force behind this crisis, and we will get exactly into what that crisis is, okay? So I've got to give you a little bit of the backstory, and the little bit of the backstory is that the Balkans make up many small nations, as you saw on the map, and each one of these want to gain their independence, but they are controlled by Austria-Hungary, and some of them controlled by Russia. Okay, now the Serbs. Serbia is one of the first to gain their independence, actually from Austria-Hungary. And when they get their independence, it's almost like breaking out of jail. They want everybody else to break out of jail. They believed that it was their mission to unite the South Slavs. So I used this, this phrase in the first segment of the video lesson, and I think I said Slavic, okay? So Slavic, Slavs, think Eastern European. These peoples actually descend from Indo-Europeans if we go way, way back in ancient history. So the Serbs believe that it's their duty to bring all of these southern Slavs together. Now, more of the backstory. More of the backstory is that Bosnia is a Balkan nation, and it was annexed by Austria-Hungary. So annexed means to take in. Now, if you're a little bit new to taking notes, it's always a good idea to pause the video for one, but also to write notes off to the side, and that might include a definition like annexed if you aren't sure what it is, just like I told you to do with the word nationalism. So actually, did I talk about nationalism? I think I'm going to have to go back, guys. Okay, so let me continue with annexed. Bosnia was taken in by Austria-Hungary, so really it was made part of Austria-Hungary. Okay, and with more of the backstory, we have R being Russia. Russia supports the Serbs. So can you already see the sides forming? Here you have Serbia gaining independence. You have the big dog of Russia supporting the Serbs. Okay, Bosnia is taken in by Austria-Hungary, and who else is on Austria-Hungary's side? If you said Germany, you are right. Okay, I am going to go back to nationalism, but I'm going to wait till I have a graphic because I think it does a really good job of kind of defining the ideas behind nationalism. Okay, and here we have it. So take a look. If I said that the United States was patriotic, you might have images of, say, at a football game, people sing the national anthem. Some schools will make their kids recite the Pledge of Allegiance. If we have troops stationed in the Middle East, many people do not believe that our troops should be in the Middle East. They don't like it. They're allowed to voice their opinion with free speech. We are a patriotic nation. Now, even if we don't support the military in the Middle East, it doesn't mean that we will treat the soldiers badly when they are sent home, okay? So in that way, we have patriotic feelings. We don't necessarily like what our government was doing, but we're going to support the people that are there, okay? Now, we have to go a little bit further to understand nationalism. Nationalism is this mindset, this feeling, this belief that whatever your government says is the truth. You will follow your government to no end. You will not question them. These guys in this image are blindly following their leader, carrying their flag, and they will do so even if they fall off the cliff. Okay? So that's kind of how I like to explain nationalism. It's a little bit further than patriotism. Okay, so continuing with the Balkan Crisis. There is a shot heard around the world. That's what some historians refer to this event as. Now, you could argue that there are many shots heard around the world in history, but this is definitely one of those big shots. So here's the end of that story, and the end of that story is that the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne is assassinated while on a visit to Sarajevo. Sarajevo, guys, is the capital of Bosnia. Okay, so this is the guy that is going to be in charge of Austria-Hungary. And remember that Bosnia was annexed by Austria-Hungary. So, like many heads of states do, they go visit a country, whether they annexed it or not, and there might be a parade. Okay, so keep that in mind. There might be a parade or a motorcade route. All right, so here's the other end of the story. The guy who assassinates him, his name is Gavril Princip, and he happens to be a member of the Serbian nationalist group called the Black Hand. So if you have to flip back a page to remind yourself what the term nationalism is, go ahead and do that. Pause it and go ahead and do that. Okay, so Archduke Franz Ferdinand is visiting Sarajevo, Bosnia. A member of the Serbian nationalist group assassinates Franz Ferdinand, and actually his wife too. I'll show you some pictures. Oop. Okay, now the Serbian officials knew what the Black Hand was going to do, and the reason why they allowed it to happen is because they wanted to start a war. Okay, so to put some faces with names, this is the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, this is his wife Sophie, and to make it even a little bit more real and not just a story in history, I think sometimes showing families of these famous people kind of make them a little bit more real. So when the Archduke and the Archduchess were assassinated in Sarajevo, they left behind 3 kids who didn't have parents anymore. Okay, so like I said before, these guys are visiting Sarajevo and they are going to go visit the city. They are going to say, hello, people of Sarajevo. We have just annexed you and here we are. Let's meet you. All right, so these guys are leaving their hotel and they're going to get into this car. And this is just another photo from that day that they were assassinated. They're shaking hands with somebody along the motorcade route. Okay. And I'm actually going to back up just one moment here. So a little bit more that I want to tell you is that, one, they're traveling in this open car. There are no windows, there's no roof on it, so they're very visible and accessible, which in part is what they wanted to do. So they're going to go to their hotel and then they will end up at City Hall where he will then deliver a speech, and there's an entire route planned out. And it is published so that people can line the streets and say hello to their new leader. Well, guess what? There's actually a first attempt on their lives, but it explodes behind them. And so instead of like ending the motorcade route, instead of going back to their hotel, he wants to continue and he just takes a different route. Well, he's forced onto a wrong turn, and that's where he and his wife are assassinated. All right, and he'd actually given his bodyguards the day off that day. So there's actually more to this story. There's a lot of conspiracy theories surrounding it, but we are going to continue and kind of end this segment with the Balkan Crisis here. So Austria-Hungary blames Serbia, as well they should, and they issue an ultimatum on the 23rd of July. If you need to write 1914 to help you remember, go ahead and do that. So Austria-Hungary, it's their Archduke who was assassinated. They blame Serbia because this is where the Black Hand comes from. All right. Now, an ultimatum is pretty much do this or else. And the or else is pretty awful. You want to comply with it because you don't want to suffer the consequences of the or else. All right. Now, instead of having you read the ultimatum, which I used to have students do, just take my word for it that they issue this ultimatum and Serbia does not comply, so a few days later, Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia. Now, who is in support of Serbia? Gotta name a big dog here. Da-da-da-da. If you said Russia, you are correct. Russia then mobilizes her army, gets it moving east, and because Russia mobilizes her army, Germany then declares war on Russia a few days later on the 1st of August, and then 2 days after that, Germany declares war on France on the 3rd of August. So, you don't have to memorize these dates necessarily. I am giving you the dates in 1914 that this happened to give you an idea of really how quickly a world war can break out. Okay? So there it is. World War I begins in August of 1914. All right, so a few more pictures. This is Gavril Princip. He was actually only 18 years old, and because we're talking about a famous person being assassinated, and a famous person going along this motorcade route, they had photographers, right? They're capturing the moment. This is Gavril Princip being apprehended right after he assassinates both Archduke Franz Ferdinand and Sophie. And I'm going to end segment number 2 there.